Long before the dinosaurs ever walked the earth, before birds filled the skies, even before the first forests spread across the continents, the oceans already belonged to sharks. Their story begins more than 400 million years ago, when strange, primitive fish first evolved flexible skeletons made of cartilage instead of bone. Because cartilage is lighter than bone, it helps sharks stay more agile in the water. Over millions of years, sharks evolved into extremely efficient swimmers. Their bodies are streamlined, their teeth are constantly replaced, and their senses are incredibly sensitive. One of their most interesting senses is their ability to detect tiny electrical signals in the water. All living animals produce faint electrical fields when their muscles move, and sharks can pick up on those signals using special organs called ampullae of Lorenzini. Today, scientists know of more than 500 species of sharks. Some live in shallow coral reefs, while others travel across the open ocean. A few species even live thousands of feet below the surface in complete darkness. Each species has its own unusual adaptations that help it survive in one of the largest and most mysterious ecosystems on planet Earth. Far below the surface of the ocean, sunlight disappears very quickly. After only a few hundred meters, the water becomes dark, and deeper down it turns completely black. But even in this darkness, sharks are still able to live and hunt. One of the most fascinating deep-sea sharks is the lantern shark. These sharks are usually small, often less than a foot long, but they have an amazing ability. They can produce their own light. Their bodies are covered in tiny glowing organs called photophores. These organs create a soft blue-green glow. Scientists believe this light helps the sharks blend in with the faint light coming down from above. When predators look up from below, the shark's glow helps hide its silhouette. This trick is called counter-illumination, and many deep-sea animals use it. The glowing patterns might also help lantern sharks communicate with each other. Different species seem to have slightly different light patterns on their bodies, which could help them recognize members of their own species in the darkness. Even today, scientists are still discovering new species of lantern sharks. Because they live so deep in the ocean, they are very difficult to study, and there may still be many that have never been seen by humans. The cookiecutter shark is one of the strangest sharks in the entire ocean. It's surprisingly small, usually only about 20 inches long, and it has a very unusual way of feeding. Instead of chasing prey like many other sharks, the cookiecutter shark takes small bites out of much larger animals. Its lips form a strong suction seal against its target. Then, the shark twists its body and removes a perfectly round chunk of flesh. The bite is so circular that it looks like someone used a cookie cutter, which is where the shark gets its name. Scientists have found cookiecutter bite marks on a huge variety of animals, including whales, dolphins, tuna, seals, and even large sharks like great whites. Cookiecutter sharks also glow in the dark. Most of their bodies produce a faint bioluminescent light, but their throat area stays dark. From below, that dark spot can look like the silhouette of a small fish. When a larger predator swims closer to investigate, the cookiecutter shark suddenly attacks. Even more surprising, cookiecutter sharks have occasionally left circular bite marks on submarines and underwater cables, which shows just how bold these tiny sharks can be. One of the easiest sharks to recognize is the thresher shark, mainly because of its enormous tail. In some species, the upper part of the tail can grow almost as long as the rest of the shark's body. For a long time, fishermen suspected that threshers used their tails while hunting, but scientists didn't have proof until underwater cameras finally captured the behavior. When a thresher shark finds a school of fish, it slowly swims around them to gather them into a tight group. Then, it suddenly whips its tail forward like a giant whip. The tail strike can move extremely fast and creates a shock wave in the water that stuns several fish at once. After that, the shark calmly swims back and eats the fish it just stunned. Some species of thresher sharks also have slightly warm muscles, which is unusual for fish. This allows them to swim faster and react more quickly than many other cold-blooded ocean animals. The goblin shark is one of the strangest looking sharks ever discovered. It lives deep in the ocean and is rarely seen, which makes every sighting exciting for scientists. Its most notable feature is its long, flat snout that sticks out in front of its head. Inside this snout are many electroreceptors that help the shark detect prey in the dark water. But the goblin shark's most famous feature is its jaws. Unlike most sharks, its jaws can shoot forward dramatically when it attacks. The jaws are connected with elastic ligaments, almost like a spring. When the shark senses prey nearby, its jaws launch outward in a fraction of a second and snap shut before quickly pulling back into its mouth. The movement is so fast and unusual that it almost looks mechanical. Because goblin sharks belong to a very old family of sharks, scientists sometimes call them living fossils. Their relatives have existed for over 100 million years. The great white shark is probably the most famous shark in the world. It is also one of the largest predatory fish, growing up to about 20 feet long. Great whites are incredibly powerful swimmers. In some places, like the coast of South Africa and parts of California, they hunt seals using an incredible technique called breaching. The shark starts deep underwater and swims upward at high speed. It hits the seal from below and sometimes bursts completely out of the water during the attack. This requires perfect timing and a huge burst of strength. Scientists who study great white sharks have also noticed that individual sharks seem to behave differently from one another. Some sharks are bold and investigate new things right away, while others are much more cautious. Great whites also have an excellent sense of smell. They can detect tiny traces of chemicals in the water, and their brains are surprisingly large compared to many other fish. Hammerhead sharks have a very distinct shape because of their wide, hammer-shaped heads. This structure is called a cephalofoil, and it gives the shark several advantages. First, the eyes sit at the far ends of the head, which gives hammerheads an extremely wide field of vision. They can see both above and below them more easily than many other sharks. Second, the wide head spreads out thousands of electroreceptors across a larger surface area. This makes hammerheads extremely good at detecting the electrical signals produced by hidden animals. One of their favorite foods is the stingray. Stingrays often hide under sand on the ocean floor, but hammerheads can still detect them using their electroreceptors. Sometimes the shark even presses the ray down with its head before biting it. Some hammerhead species are also very social. The scalloped hammerhead can gather in enormous schools that sometimes contain hundreds of sharks. These groups are often seen around underwater mountains and islands such as the Galapagos. Scientists are still studying why these schools form, but seeing so many hammerheads swimming together is one of the most incredible sights in the ocean. The whale shark is the largest fish in the entire ocean. Some individuals grow longer than 40 feet, and they can weigh more than 20 tons. Even though they are so huge, whale sharks eat some of the smallest animals in the sea. They are filter feeders, which means they swim with their mouths open and filter tiny organisms out of the water. When a whale shark feeds, it takes in large amounts of water and pushes it through special filtering structures in its gills. These filters trap plankton, krill, and fish eggs while the water flows back out. Each whale shark also has a unique pattern of white spots on its body. Scientists realize that these patterns are similar to star patterns in the sky. Because of that, they started using astronomy software to help identify individual whale sharks by their spots. Satellite tracking has shown that whale sharks travel incredibly long distances across the ocean. Some have been recorded swimming thousands of miles between feeding areas. Even though they are the biggest fish in the sea, they move slowly and calmly, making them one of the most peaceful and fascinating animals in the ocean.